Well, basically, just some council discussion and some maybe general direction on, if any, on what we're going to do for our next meeting. At the next meeting, we're going to have the department directors present their budgets to you and how they're going to operate within these new cuts and cutbacks. But also, what we're going to do in the meantime, Gina and I, is work with every department director and department and function. We're going to look at how many vehicles we have left. Do we have any extra that we need to sell? We're going to look at all of our contracts. We're going to look at all of our TR software licenses. We're going to look at everything that we can do as far as efficiencies and cuts and maybe some revenues in the individual departments that we have talked about, that some have mentioned before and have come up. Maybe there's something, a fee that they're not charging, that they need to be charging, or some recovery that they can get. These will all be looked at the next meeting, along with other things that the council may want us to look at as far as the town as a whole is concerned.
Yeah, I think, and I'm just one person, but we got to download a lot of information today, and it's very difficult to digest it all so quick. And for me, again, I'm just one, and everybody just jumping in with it. I think the goal is to balance the budget, and I don't think anybody up here should be the one who says this is where we're going to cut, what we're not going to do. It ought to come from the department heads, at least with recommendations back. And look, we can always find a reason why we can't get there. This isn't the time to hear why we can't do it. This is the time to figure out how do we be creative and reinvent ourselves if we have to do this. Because we can't, the biggest fear that I have is that next year, because if we don't close it, we go into, and we end the year with 500,000, we're not going to do trans. And then our worst nightmare is here. We are bankrupt. And we can't, because the bank looks at our you got
cash flow, yeah.
They're going to look at our income expenses, and they're going to look at our balance sheets, and if everything is going, it doesn't matter what making our obligations, if we're eroding our reserves, and we aren't doing anything structurally to address that, I don't know a bank in the world, especially the new lending standards, is going to say, I'm going to take the risk. But, and so for me, I'm just one. I just think we got to zero out the deficit. It's a structural issue. We got to fix whatever the structural issue is once and for all. Period. Personally.
I agree. And if we can get down there, and like you said, come up with all kinds of alternatives. I mean, all kinds of ways of getting there. We talked about business licenses. We talked about different ways of revenues, along with cuts. Put it on the table. Let's get it on the table. Let's look at it. At least we have the options to start. But the thing that, for me, that if we can get below this thing, if we can get to where we're balanced, hopefully the departments can see at that point that all we can do is move up from there. And my other question too is there a way of talking to the county on the property taxes? Because there are some property taxes that we can move up quicker. The ones that were in foreclosure, I know those can move up a little bit quicker than our Prop 13 houses that they can only live so much a year. If we can move those, accelerate those, is that possible? I know Paradise went down pretty quickly with their property taxes, quicker than the county would allow their property taxes to go down.
And we're going to come up slower. Our recovery is going to be slower than some areas, and that's our problem. We're going to lag a little slower than some areas, but we will check into that the property taxes with the county, and our supplementals will probably be big this year. I'm hoping, I hope.
Yeah, and that'd be a question that I'd have. So.
You know, Gina, you said, I remember last year when we did the budget, and you gave us a 5-year projection, you know, and we were looking last year, if nothing changed, we were gonna finish this year with a $160,000 deficit, next year projected 300 plus. And like now that's jumped to almost $500,000. Is that solely based on your very conservative estimates? And
Right,
that
well, and
reduced-
a big part of that was the JPA refunding, that's $165,000.
Right, so that's what the
Changed
biggest
it.
part of that was that?
Yeah.
Okay, and we don't know what that's gonna be.
I don't know what that
So
for
it
sure
isn't,
is
I mean,
going to be.
I appreciate what Tim's saying,
Yeah.
but we don't, I mean, it's a rough estimate, it's $460,000.
Yeah, exactly, I mean, this
But
is
it
a
may
very
not-
rough ballpark.
Maybe get back down to $300,000.
Yeah, but it's still too big, yeah. I guess the challenge is we ought to be able to get in time, and the goal should be we ought to operate on revenue, not on reimbursements. And which means somehow we've got to figure out how, whatever it's going to take, it's going to have to take a balanced approach. And I don't know anybody has all the answers. I think the departments are going to have to come back with their recommendations, and staff with your recommendations, what we need to do. I just don't want to, again, as a councilman, I don't want to just nibble at the edges of this thing and die 1,000 deaths. I'd rather bite the bullet, do what we got to do, get ourselves fiscally balanced and in a position where we can weather some storms, and then worry about growing and doing the right things instead of always hunkering down and playing catch up or wondering what if.
And I agree with that. I guess one of the concerns that I have from sitting here and going through some of the, because we've had this declining, we've had these problems continually, it seems like, with the exception of maybe 1 year, is that part of what the departments will bring back, there's got to be a level at which, like we talked about changing the contract with CAL FIRE, reducing the service money. One of the ways we sold that was like, gee, everybody, you're going to have, for the same money, you're going to have increased services. Now immediately, and I get the financial reasons behind these ideas of cuts. Our police department, we're working, I mean, we are at such bare bones. There's got to be some point where we can't go any lower than. And I would like to see when we get the numbers come back, see what those points are. Because one of the options that we have discussed here with this new council is that we may have to go to the public and say, this is the books, this is where we're at, this is all we can give you for the dollars we got. If you want more, how about a sales tax or utility tax or something? And that may be part of the revenue solution. The other thing I'd ask for to be brought back in the restructuring idea, you put in your report that come June or July or whatever, new fiscal year, we need to hire a new city manager, and so we plug some money in there. There's the costs of the expense of recruitment and all that other stuff and backgrounds and all that. We'll know more maybe in April or in May. Maybe we need to, in the short term, put off that till the fall and continue if Lauren's willing and capable, I know she's capable, able, to maybe put that kind of a thing off because there are some savings there. Or we have the right to where if we're happy come June with the job that she's doing, we don't have to do any of that. We can just, so I mean, I would like to look at what those options represent dollar-wise as we come back. Those would be my suggestions.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I believe that what's been said here is we just got to put a deficit spending, all right? And again, what it was saying, letting the department heads do the cutting, some of the cutting in their areas where they can. But as Mr. Boland just mentioned, business licenses, we could look at outsourcing. We can look at some of the assets that we do have that are not bringing in any income and that we may or may never use. So we need to look at that in order to balance the budget. And as the mayor has said, we're going to have to make some hard choices. We're going to have to take the castor oil today. We're going to have a real problem next year. So let's get it done this year. Let's have a balanced budget. And if we have to sell assets, if we have to outsource, it's been mentioned, we're going to already look at all the contracts. And I think that's a good place to start because I think in a field we're being hosed, so to speak. So anyway, I think we're all moving in the right direction.
Particularly the bond. I think we ought to really renegotiate that thing.
Is that possible? I mean, we've said that how many times? And
I don't know, but I think,
How can we know?
well, we gotta call the bonding company and figure out what their, what
Yeah,
their agent is.
can we go to them and say, look, even though it says in the contract that there's no way to refinance or redo it, we go to them and say, look, here's the projections, we're gonna be broke and we're gonna default, so you might wanna work with us.
I think that we should do
We can
that.
certainly at least open the door and
I mean-
pose the question.
Use that.
We should definitely do that.
Yeah, because if we can lower it just a little bit, I mean, doesn't take much.
No.
You know.
Certainly, any
I mean,
relief.
at 10% change in that, in the cost of that, the annual cost of that would be huge.
It's just like anything else that you renegotiate, you can show them that we don't have the funds to do this, and they will either renegotiate, let us out, we can do something with that. So we'll take the mayor.
So that was, I'll make my points. I mean, I'd like to, yeah, one, look at the bond. I'd also like to seriously look at our JPA, our workers' comp, and see whether there's some better alternative out there. I know that whenever we attend the league conferences, there's other, self-insurance authorities out there that, and if we're not shopping things, we don't know. And we really should, so that we can say, we're getting the best deal that we can. Often, those of us that have been on the council for a while question the wisdom of our risk management firm when they pay a claim and say, why would you pay that? Well, they wanted to make it go away, and when there's really no basis for it. So that would be one.
Okay, goody. Thank you everyone for coming and being, listening to the conversations today. And know that most of everybody here is staff now, except for Lauren
And Fred.
and Fred.
And Trevor.
But know that we have faith in you, that we trust you. We have, and I think council is open to giving license to be creative. If you've ever wanted a time to reinvent things, if you had the keys, you can do whatever you need to do to reinvent it. Now's the time to come forward with your ideas, because council's open to everything. And generally speaking, we do things just because that's the way it's been done. And especially in government, asking everybody to get out of the box is a very difficult thing. And so we're asking you to get out of the box on how you do things and come up with some fresh ideas. We can't change how Sacramento operates, but we can change how we deal with stuff, both from the standpoint of stop doings as well as just how we process. Thank you. So let's go back into closed session.